one of the questions I get asked a lot as a startup founder is, what is Goalmatic and what's your startup all about, right? And in this video, I'll be explaining it to the best of my abilities. So starting off, what is Goalmatic? Goalmatic is an AI-powered automation platform that allows you to build custom agents, workflows, and data management. And it also comes with app, which in the application is known as Bundles. Bundles are packaged end-to-end solutions for particular problems. So, for example, we have a WhatsApp business CRM bundle. We have a bundle called Simbox that allows you to create a shared email workspace. And we have other bundles that we are currently working on. And when I go and tell people that, they usually get extra confused and like, oh, what are AI agents? What are workflows? What's the difference? And so I decided to like also go further and explain each and every one of these concepts. So the building blocks of Goalmatic are actually 5. You have the agents, you have the workflows, you have the tables, you have the integrations, and then we have bundles. And I'll be going through every one of this. So first off, starting off, we have agents. So how would I explain large language? How would I explain model agents? Agents are basically large language models that have custom information and custom instructional information, custom knowledge, and also have access to tools. So agents are usually given a particular goal to achieve, and they are given the tools to achieve those goals. For example, if you want to create an agent that tracks your day, you would give it a custom instruction. Every time I tell you what a particular activity I'm doing, add it to a particular database or add it to a spreadsheet. For you to be able to do that effectively, it would need a tool to tell the time. So you'd probably want to give it a tool that can tell the time. You also need a tool to write to a database. You also want to give it that tool. So if you want the AI to be able to read from the database, you need to give it a tool that can read from the database so that it can give you summary of your day. But if you just wanted to write, then only a write tool and a time tool would do. And then after that, you give it custom instruction. This is how you use this tool, and this is what I want you to do. Every time I tell you an activity, you record it at the current time and add it to a particular database. We actually have an agent on Goalmatic that does that. I think it's called Daily Logger. So it basically takes your day and then logs it for you. And then at the end of the day, it can give you a summary of all the things you've done. That's a very good example of an AI agent. So now it has custom instructions. Underneath it, we use various AI models. So you can use Gemini, you can use ChatGPT, your OpenAI's model, that's the GPT models. You can use Claude and so on and so forth. So yeah, those are AI agents. That's basically the summary. They are basically large language models with custom instructions and tools to perform those custom instructions. So, and the way they use this tool are not always defined in the sense that you might give an agent, if you give an agent too many tools, you might ask it to do something and it might proceed to do something else. So the outcome are not usually deterministic. You can't really predict. And this is where workflows comes in. So for workflows are basically step-by-step process. So imagine a block and another block, another block. Um, a workflow is a collection of blocks or nodes or steps, however you want to call it. And each of these steps communicate with each other. They are predefined and they are deterministic. You know, after this step runs, and this step runs. In cases where you do not want an AI agent, you want to know an AI agent to like be undeterministic and you want to know the exact outcome of something. There are certain things that are repeatable and you don't want to give it to an AI agent to perform. Here's where you use workflows. Workflows in this sense, let me give an example of a workflow, right? Let's say you have a custom form on your website and you want to send a message to a user every time they fill that form. You would probably use a workflow for that because you don't want an AI to generate something, and you always want to make sure that an email is sent to the user every time they fill that form. An AI agent might say, "Oh, it's not going to send the email," and decide not to, for God knows why. Because yeah, those agents can get mood swings. You see ChatGPT, it makes mistakes. So in this case, you might want to use a workflow, right? And the first block of a workflow, because as I said, workflows are blocks connected to each other. First block of a workflow is usually called a trigger, and the trigger is usually what starts the flow. We have different variety forms of trigger. We have messaging triggers like Slack, WhatsApp, email, and webhook. We call them messaging trigger, and then we have time triggers. So these triggers are not usually they don't usually start by when a message is received. They start at a particular time. So you can allow it to run once, or you can allow it to run multiple times. So time interval triggers and scheduled time trigger or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, you can check the platforms to see. I believe you have to. So for the scheduled time trigger, it runs periodically at a particular time. It runs once at a particular time. Scheduled interval runs periodically, right? And for the messaging trigger, in this case, which you would want to use, it runs every time a message comes in. So if you link it up to like a WhatsApp, every time a WhatsApp message comes in, it would run, the workflow would run. Every time, if you link it to a form, every time a form submission comes in, the workflow would run. So in this case, a block in a workflow can pass information from one block to another. And each bottom block can access information of all the other blocks above it. So the last block can access the information of all the top blocks. In this case, when a user fills the form, the trigger is called, and then the email is generated that you want to send to the user. In order for you to generate a custom email, it's going to need the information from the trigger. So the trigger sends, that's the first block. Block 0 is usually trigger, sends the data to the trigger sends data to the second node, which generates the email. And that now sends the data to the last node, which then sends the email. So we have like three nodes. The first node, which is the trigger, the second node will generate the email, and the third node will then send it. And each one of these needs to have like information from the previous trigger for them to be able to function properly. Um, so yeah, you can also create other triggers. You can create a periodic trigger to send you a message regularly on WhatsApp to take a particular action, e.g., drink water, e.g., fill a particular form, and so on and so forth. That's basically how triggers work. I believe that explains trigger. And the next step is tables. So we have done agents, we've done workflows, and now we are talking about tables. For tables, what are tables? What are tables? Tables are basically spreadsheets. And the idea behind table came from the fact that I wanted to use Google spreadsheets, right? And there's all these verification steps that you would have to do, and also there are a lot of jumping you would have to do. And I just got tired and I built my own um spreadsheet of some sort. And that's what tables are. They are just a place where you can store data on the application. And they're also customized in a way in which AI agents and workflows, it's very easy for them to like interact with tables. So if you want to save data to a particular table, you can just use plain English and it's going to save it. You don't need to like structure it in a particular manner. They're actually smart tables. Yeah. Check the website. Smart tables that are written there, because they can tell what you're trying to add and then check the fields they have in the table and add the data for you. So yeah, tables are basically just spreadsheets or databases. They are extremely useful to communicate between AI agents and workflows. So if an agent is saving a particular data to a table, a workflow can read from that table, summarize the content, and like send you. A very good example is an expense tracker. You want to be able to track your expenses. So every time you spend something, maybe you link it to your email. So every time you make a transaction, you get an email, a trigger is called, and an email trigger is called, and it saves particular data to a table. And then maybe you spend cash and you bought pop-off and you bought food and you record it on your phone, send it on your WhatsApp. An agent is called and saves it to a table. At the ending of the day, you want to get a summary of all your expenses. You will need another separate workflow to actually read through your table and then filter for that particular day and send you the data. We're probably going to also use an AI node to process it and send you the data. So yeah, that's table. And after tables, we have integrations. I've been mentioning different nodes like WhatsApp, Slack, email, and whatnot. For you to be able to use that, we need permissions, auth permissions, API keys, and whatnot. That's where integrations comes in. Integrations are basically a way for Goalmatic agents and workflows to communicate with external platforms. So you just click there. It's usually a very, very easy step. So you just click a button and then we connect you um to the service you're trying to use. So in this case, Gmail, Twitter, Instagram, WhatsApp. you click the button, there's usually a flow you follow. If you follow the flow, and now your agents and your workflows have access to all this data, and they are basically can be smarter. You can tell it, oh, read my emails, give me the most important details, and so on and so forth. That's integration. And then the last but not the least is bundles. That's the fifth. Bundles are prepackaged solutions. So when we're building Goalmatic, we usually get a lot of, I don't understand the platform is too difficult, and so on and so forth. So bundles are basically our way of making it easier. The bundles UI is different from the main Goalmatic UI. When you go to the bundles page, there is install bundle. When you install a bundle, there's usually an onboarding page. And then after onboarding, you get into the application and the layouts. Some bundles have different layouts. While some other bundles, the layouts are similar to Goalmatic, right? And you can basically do, let me give an example of a bundle. Simbox. Simbox uses the email trigger node. And then every time you send an email to it, it saves it to a table. And then it also has a passworded page. So it's basically a shared inbox. You can create it very easily. You enter the name, check if the name already exists in our system. If it doesn't, then you get a Goalmatic.space email. And every time you send email to that address, every time you send email to that address, it's going to show up, it's going to save it to a particular table. And then you can share the public email with somebody, and you have to remember that each email is passworded, like each Simbox bundle is passworded. So when you share that page, they need the passwords to enter. Once they enter the password, then they can view the email. This is useful for people that share inbox. So if you're like sharing Netflix or ChatGPT or several plans, you might want to create a Simbox. You also have other bundles like WhatsApp Business CRM. If you're a WhatsApp business owner, I want to like view you want to have a CRM and view your chat, you can use that. We still have like so many other bundles, expense trackers and whatnot that we are working on. But yeah, those are the 5 building blocks of Goalmatic: agents, workflows, tables, integration, and bundles. So I believe I've done justice to the explanation of what am I building and what is Goalmatic. Following, I'll be releasing content on the Goalmatic channel, right, on how to actually create an agent, create a workflow, use a bundle, and so on and so forth. So yeah, thanks for coming, and we'll call it a day.